So today I will be talking about Unearthed Arcana, a trio of subclasses. So Wizards has released 3 new subclasses for everyone to try. There's one for the Monk, the Paladin, and the Ranger. Let's start by talking about the Monk. They have used one of my favorite paths for the Monk, the Drunken Fighter. A character who, through appearing to be so drunk, it's just a way to defend and attack that just confuses the enemy. Alright, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. For this class, at 3rd level, you gain the Drunken Technique. This gives you a proficiency in performance if you didn't already have it. To me, that's a fun little thematic thing that can really make role-playing moment for your character. The other part of this ability says when you use your flurry of blows, you gain the disengage effect, and your speed increases by 10. This not only is thematic, but changes the way the monk fights in combat. It makes an already mobile monk be able to move around the battle with even greater speed, moving in and out of a fight, which is great. And then next at 6th level, you get the Tipsy Sway. This is that iconic Drunken Master move where through the erratic movements, they either deflect a blow or dodge in such a way that the enemy attack ends up hitting one of their allies instead. So in terms of mechanics, you get this once per short or long rest, and when the opponent misses you, you can have it hit an enemy within 5 feet of you. So, to put it in perspective, imagine someone comes at you with lunges at you with its sword, and your staggering causes the sword to miss. You end up catching his arm under yours, and then you stumble backwards. And you end up stabbing someone else instead. That's kind of how that works. And then 11th level, you get Drunkard's Luck. This gives you the ability to use a key point to gain advantage on a saving throw. You have to decide to do this before making the roll. Even though this is a decent ability, I don't really feel it. I feel like they needed an 11th level ability that was like, something like a damage reduction due to the relaxed nature of the fighting style. Kind of like, how when you're drunk, things don't hurt as bad. I feel like that would have been a great ability. So then after this, you get Drunken Intoxication, which gives you 3 additional attacks with your flurry of blows as long as they target different creatures. I feel like the class, I don't know, it started out pretty great, but these last 2, they kind of lose a lot of the fun, and I don't know. I would still love to play this class just for the possibility of the role-playing elements and descriptive combat that can come along with it. So next, Wizards gives us the Paladin. And it's kind of that Paladin we all remembered and kind of disliked in past editions. They give us the Paladin Oath of Redemption. This is a Paladin who uses violence as a last resort. The tenets of the redemption include peace, innocence, patience, and wisdom. The tenet of peace talks about using diplomacy and understanding to gain long-lasting peace over using violence. The tenet of innocence states that everyone is born innocent and that the environment makes you evil and that you should set an example and use your power to heal the world, and that is the best way to protect innocence. You also must be patient. You know that it takes time to change the hearts of the unrighteous. You must every day work to let the seed of righteousness grow. And finally, the tenet of wisdom, which is, all can be redeemed, but some are so far along the path of evil, they must be taken care of for the greater good. This really does feel like how paladins were in the past. It is done, I don't know. I'm just hoping people don't fall back into that, super strict, unwavering rule paladin that they've done in past editions. The spells you get really fit into the thematics of the class. They all have to do protection or detainment. You get, like Autoluke's Resilience, Fear, Counterspell, some great ones there, and they work. Now for the abilities. So at 3rd level, you gain Armor of Peace, which, while unarmed and without a shield, you have an armor class of 16, plus your dex modifier. This fits into that idea of person who uses violence as a last resort. Because if you go in and you're wearing armor, flaming plate mail, Vorpal sword, they don't like you. To piggyback on this at 3rd level, you also get the Warrior of Reconciliation. When wielding a simple weapon with bludgeoning damage type, if you reduce a creature's hit points to 0 and spare it instead of going unconscious, the creature is charmed for a minute. It refuses to move or take actions unless you tell it to. The creature can't attack someone or do something that causes a saving throw or to deal damage to itself or others. After the effect ends, the creature goes unconscious with 0 hit points. So I get the idea of only using a simple weapon, but I really don't get what the point is. It's not like you can cause a huge character change in a minute. The only way I see this being useful is if someone is being held captive, and you order them to let them go, or to have the person give you the info. But that wouldn't fit very well into the thematics of this build. So I don't know what they were thinking for that. Then for your Channel Divinity at 3rd level, you get Emissary of Peace, which as a bonus action gives you your next Persuasion Charisma check +5. And Rebuke the Violent, which is when an ally other than you is dealt damage, you can make the attacker to roll a Wisdom save or take that much radiant damage as they just caused with save for half. These are pretty good abilities. You get the +5 for a character who's already getting a large charisma bonus. It's going to help a lot in situations before the situation becomes a situation. And then imagine, an ally getting critted and then you use that second one. That could really change the tide. Now at 7th level, you gain the ability to transfer all damage dealt to an ally within 10 feet of you to yourself as a reaction. Any other effects related to the attack still go to the original person who was attacked. And at 15th level, if you have less than 50% of your hit points, and you aren't incapacitated, you can gain 1d6 plus your paladin level. Still, great abilities. It doesn't fit into my playstyle, but it might fit into yours. So don't let what I say stop you from trying it. But now let's get to the 20th level ability, Emissary of Redemption. In my head, I picture this person of pure pacifism. A person who will not resort to violence no matter what the threat to himself. So what you gain is resistance to all damage dealt by other creatures. And you can't absorb allies' damage and have resistance. But when a creature deals damage to you, it takes half the damage. No save or roll required. If you deal damage, causing a saving throw or an attack, you lose this ability against that creature until after a long rest. This is an insane ability and adds this awesome image of perfect pacifism. Like I said, even though this is not my favorite build, it's definitely a great build for people who are looking for this kind of character to play. And the third option they add is Monster Slayer for the Ranger. They focus on slaying all sorts of evil and unnatural things. The Ranger gets access to a list of spells. The spells count as Ranger spells, but they don't count against the number of Ranger spells you know. The third level is Protection Against Evil, and the 5th level is Zone of Truth. 9th is Magical Circle. 13th is Banishment. 17th is Planar Binding. These are all great spells to add to any Ranger spell list. At 3rd level, you gain the ability called Slayer's Eye. That, as a bonus action, you can choose one creature you can see within 120 feet. You immediately learn all the target's vulnerabilities, immunities, and resistances. You also learn any special effects triggered when the target takes damage. On top of that, your first attack each round against that creature, each turn, takes an additional 1d6 damage. This ability lasts until you target another creature with this ability or a long or short rest. So as a Dungeon Master, I feel like this is an awfully overpowered ability. This ability really takes all the fun and mystery out of combat and takes all the dramatic tension you get from fighting the unknown. But let's just keep moving forward. If you're using the Ranger variant from the earlier Unearthed Arcana, at 5th level you do gain an additional attack that lets you make... and when you make an attack action, you can make 2 attacks in that round. This is a pretty standard ability for the combat classes, the other ones you can play. So the next ability you get really builds along the Slayer's Eye ability. Whenever a creature you have Slayer's Eye activated on causes you to make a saving throw, you can add 1d6 to your roll. this is a pretty reasonable for 7th level, but, you're already adding on top of something that's already pretty overpowered. Then at 11th, it lets you stop a creature that you have Slayer's Eye on from escaping. If that creature's trying to escape through, like, teleportation, or all those sort of things, as a reaction, you can make a contested wisdom check with the... if the target succeeds, it escapes, but if it doesn't, it is foiled, and whatever kind of action they were using, gets wasted. The only thing, the creature must be visible and within 30 feet to use. This is the only ability for this build that I feel isn't that broken. It fits thematically and isn't overpowered, but it does require the use of Slayer's Eye, which sucks. So at 15th level, you gain the ability Counterattack. When the prey tries to sabotage you, if the target of your Slayer's Eye forces you to make a saving throw, you can use your reaction to make one weapon attack against it. You make this attack immediately before making the saving throw. If the attack hits, your save automatically succeeds, and in addition to the attack's normal effects. So to me as a Dungeon Master, I don't think I would allow this class for the Ranger. This might not be so bad for people who've been playing since the 80s and have every stat block for every monster since, AD&D memorized, but since D&D's become so popular lately and there's such a large group of people who have no idea what to expect, it could just ruin all the fun of learning what these creatures can and can't do and their weaknesses. But, this is just my opinion, and you do what you want. So in the end, I can really only recommend one of these classes, but all 3 of these classes can add a lot to your campaign depending on your style of play. Now, tell me what you think. Let me know down in the comments, and while you're down there, be sure to subscribe and click on the little bell. That way you can keep up to date with all the things going on the channel. Links to all my other sites can be found in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.